this is hard to not get hyped about. Like, this is extremely hard to keep the hype in check when you see stuff like this where, like, you're fighting and look at that, an army of crab. Like, how cool is that? Like, it's hard to not get hype about this stuff. It's very hard, but the cool heads will prevail if you can keep the hype in check and take a breather after watching something like this. Keep your expectations low, keep it in check. You'll enjoy the moment even more when you get your hands on the game, and you'll not expect something that's over the top and you won't be disappointed. So keeping the expectations in check, always the key here. But with all that being said, my opinion went from very cautious about the PvE to very positive after seeing this. Like, very, very fun stuff. Yeah, for sure. From my perspective, like, I'm gonna talk from myself. Reality now is that Elden Ring PvE looks better than I thought it would be, and that the PvP has more potential than I thought it would have, and so those are two really good things. But at the end of the day, we have to recognize that there's a lot of changes in the PvP, and that we did not expect. There is actually so much change that the likeliness of the PvP being absolutely broken and unbalanced is much higher as well. Because before that, we expected Elden Ring to be Dark Souls 3.5, and being Dark Souls 3.5, we know and we understand Dark Souls 3, and so we know to what extent the game would be. But that is not the case anymore. With all these new systems, it's its own thing. It's its own PvP thing. And so with all these new implementations, different jumping iframes, passive poise, mixed in with new spells and new kicks, and you know, all these things put together, it makes for a very and new attacks. Like, you know, not just one running attack, got two running attack, got two jumping attack. You know, that's a lot of different additions. It's a lot of things to add up, and while it has so much more potential, it's also a lot more likely when you add that many variables that unbalances are a lot more likely to come with it as well. And so you should expect things to be broken and unbalanced, especially for PvP, especially early on into the game. We expect From Software to patch things out as years and as time goes by, just like how they did with Dark Souls 3. They actually did a pretty good job at it. Think about how elemental infusions were kind of useless before they introduced the Dark patch. Think about how the Kartus Curve Sword, as well as other Curve Sword, Follower Saber, were extremely powerful and overpowered, and how they toned that down. There's a lot of very good patches PvP-wise for Dark Souls 3. Obviously, they stopped supporting the game after a certain extent, and unfortunately, that's at that point that we started discovering, oh, crossbow's actually fucking dumb. Oh shit, Murky's actually broken. God damn it, I wish Quickstep was not into the game. Ah, fuck, bow glitch is a thing. That's when they stopped supporting the game that these things kind of came to light. But before that, the job of balancing the game was actually going at a very beautiful pace. And so keep in mind that when the game comes out, when everything comes out, the fun will be in discovering. And discovering, figuring things out. Don't expect things to be too balanced. Don't have your hopes up. But this is the likeliness of the scenario that's going to happen. Kind of a mess, probably. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be like really well polished and balanced from the start. It's always a possibility. But the likely scenario is have your fun with the PvE, right? Explore things, figure things out with the PvP. Keep it in the back of your mind that there's a lot of new systems. You're going to have to get better at them. You're going to have to understand them. Give it some time. They'll also be patching the game as time goes by. And with that being said, keep your expectations where they should be. Talk about the shooting arrows while jumping thing that may be going to destroy mages. So maybe you're referencing the vid we had earlier where we kind of joked around that mages could just run away and shoot while running away. I think that in this game, there's going to be a huge focus around parkour. The jumping in the environment is going to play a massive role, not into the duel or the fights themselves necessarily, but the invasion type of interaction. And what I mean by that is I think you'll often find scenarios where one party, whether it's the host team or the invader, is trying to get an advantage over the others by climbing onto stuff, right? And sort of like using this jump to like go somewhere that the others can't and take advantage of that. So you might see a lot of instances where you get someone that climbed on top of something, and whether it's annoying or fun, it definitely is a major departure from like a Dark Souls 3, for instance, right? It definitely does not feel like anything we've had before. Like even Sekiro didn't really have that because there was no multiplayer. So being on top of a structure, a non-intended structure, mind you, being on top of a house where From Software did not necessarily intended you to be on top of that house, might make it a lot harder for the other guy to get on top of the house, for the opposing team. And that's where range action really comes into play here. So you get this scenario where if you have this position where the other guy can't reach you, whether it's an archer or a magic caster, or no matter what, really, you might get into that annoying situation where some of the mechanics might really get on your nerve. Okay, so that's just something you have to be worried about going into this, and be careful about these things. So keep that in mind, guys. Can a host have two phantoms and that spell to cast phantom at the same time? Because that sounds OP as hell. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, gankers being OP is not new. Gankers being OP is not a new thing. We've been there. We've been there. I don't expect this to change. Do you think magic will be a necessity for invaders since it's 3v1 with no help? That's too early to say, but I think having a range option might be more important in Elden Ring than in previous games because of what I mentioned, of people getting to points or like heights or in areas where it's going to be difficult to parkour to get there. Because, for instance, maybe you just invaded a host who took like 4 hours to get to where he is, right? Like on top of this particular rock. Like it took him 4 hours to fucking climb there by various means, whether it was to grind the corner or whatever. And so you're not gonna get there, whether it's, you know, a game flaw or whatever. Like you might not get there, so you might have to try to take him out from range. Okay, so that might happen. So keep that in mind. Are you liking the PvP of Elden Ring? Well, I'll be able to tell you more about how I like the PvP once I get my hands on it. But so far, I'm seeing some positive signs, some signs of change. Unlike our first impression where it looked very Dark Souls 3-like, we're seeing lots of signs of a new era of Souls PvP. So that, I think that's a good thing. Now, we saw a lot more of these new systems, because there's a lot of new systems in place, you know, having iframes while jumping, having counterattacks, having so many new spells, different ways that weapon arts can affect combat. Like, there's the no 2 hits true combo, like all those things put together. It's just too many changes to say that it's going to feel like Dark Souls 3. Like, the movement and the spacing will be like Dark Souls 3, but there's just so many other factors that are going to influence the way the game is played, especially in PvP, that we can't say that it's a Dark Souls 3.5. It was a blast to talk about all this stuff. It's really exciting things. We got a lot to look forward to, but always, guys, keep all the possibilities in your mind. Keep the hype in check, and appreciate the game for what it is. We'll know more about Elden Ring once we get our hands on the game ourselves in the network test in 2 days.